Welcome to Two Angry Men, the newest podcast with Los Angeles Magazine's own Mark Geragos and TMZ's Harvey Levin, where the two get together and talk about the biggest legal stories of the day. Enjoy.
Have you had any contact with friends or family since you've been at this facility for now going on 8 months?
No. Nobody.
Mark, this is crazy. Welcome to the Two Angry Men podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Mark Geragos here.
So,
are you angry today?
I am so angry. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I am outraged at what I have seen over the last month or so. I have been talking with Wendy Williams for hours on end. And Mark, Wendy is going to be joining us on the podcast in just a few minutes. This woman is being treated, in my opinion, like a criminal, locked up in an assisted living facility where she can't go outside, people can't call her, people can't visit her, she has no internet. She is in one room, Mark, day after day, week after week, month after month, and this has been going on for a long time. She is under a guardianship, which may have made sense 2 years ago. It does not make sense today.
Well, look, you had sent a clip and I encouraged you to play it because I will tell you something. If you watch this clip like I did, you will see almost immediately, I think you will, that what the genesis of this was. And it was the genesis of all of this was a mother's love for her son and that situation. Then you combine that mother's love for her son with a lot of money, and then injecting the judicial system into it. And you get into what I think and what you have kind of articulated is the system run amok. And that's unfortunate, but that's where we are right now.
And before we play the clip, I think you got to understand that a couple of years ago, Wendy was in a bad state. And you saw it if you watched this Lifetime documentary. Alcohol was involved, and she needed help. And maybe there was, and we're going to play this clip, there was a reason to have a financial guardianship, and I would say a personal guardianship as well. This woman is back to who she was. She is sober, she is focused, she is with it. She is the old Wendy Williams, but stuck in a guardianship where I think she's being treated like a prisoner. So let's get to the clip. This is how the guardianship started. And as Mark said, we'll get into how it ran amok. Did anybody ever explain to you why you're in a guardianship?
No, not exactly. But you know what? There are some things that I do know for myself. You know what I'm saying? And I understand. It's about my money. You know what I'm saying?
Can you talk to me about how Wendy ended up in a guardianship?
My understanding is somebody was in her bank account that Wells Fargo flagged, and there was large withdrawals being taken out.
My son, he overstepped his boundaries in terms of me. You understand? He overstepped his boundaries, and he was inappropriately using my money without telling me crap about it. Like, is he stealing from me? Look, all I know is that in terms of what I'm dealing with, and that this is still going on, because, that's when my money got frozen at Wells Fargo. Thank God. No more money stealing from my son and the other people.
Wells Fargo, your bank, said you were the victim of undue influence and financial exploitation with respect to your money. Who was unduly influencing you? Who is the person that was doing this?
Thank you. Listen, my son is a really good person. You know what? Oh, God, I'm not going to cry about that. Oh, I'm sorry for cursing. Look, my son is a good person, but at this point, he is a horrible person to me. You know what I'm saying? It's the way he moves with other people. You know what I'm saying? And what's going on with these other people at my apartment in Miami? What are you doing? Oh, you spent on what? And what is going on at Wells Fargo?
There was a situation where Kevin says he wanted to rent a boat for his birthday for $1,500 and ended up getting a boat that rented out for $113,000. And he blamed it on the bank, that the bank wanted him to have that. That never really made sense to me.
Nor me. You know what I'm saying? He has a way of getting with, a couple of other people. You know what I'm saying? My son is not the only one, you know what I'm saying, involved with my money. You know what I'm saying?
In September, we know the judge said this in court. While Mr. Hunter, that's the son, Kevin, apologized for past mistakes and inappropriate behavior, the court is not convinced that he can keep her safe and wouldn't willingly or unwittingly expose her to financial exploitation. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Kevin has denied any impropriety when it came to Wendy's finances, and also that he cannot speak on camera because he's not allowed to per the judge. If Wendy is released, should she be placed under the care of her son, Kevin?
No. This is how we got here in the first place.
My aunt loves her son very much, but I think that there are other options at this point in terms of who can care for and make sure that his mother at 60 years old is taken care of properly.
So it started as a financial guardianship because this bank, Wells Fargo, realized somebody was getting into her bank account and pulling money out. And at the same time, the judge realized Wendy was struggling and put her under a guardianship of her person. Now, somehow, this guardianship turned into, let's basically put her in a room and not let anybody have access. Mark, the way I did this interview with her, I had to have a camera on the street, on the sidewalk, shooting up at the window. And she was at the window and she had a phone to her ear. And that's the only way that I could pull this off.
I've had this experience where, and by the way, the banks, to their credit, and you don't hear me compliment banks all that often, but to their credit, when they see something that looks like it may be abusive, they'll step in. I've had them do that with a client of mine who was being unduly influenced. And they did that here, and that's normally kind of what happens and what triggers this financial oversight. What we're talking about here is this financial oversight that then morphs into this almost this straitjacket. And I will tell you, by the way, all you have to do is walk out on the streets of downtown LA or Midtown Manhattan. You can go 2 blocks and you will see people who should be under a conservatorship because they can't control themselves, but they aren't because the conservatorship laws do not allow somebody to just go in and take them over.
That's right.
Here, however, because there's money, the system, it rings the bell.
How about this? Kanye West is a free man. Wendy Williams is in a guardianship locked in a room. This is, I'm telling you, I have spent, and we're about to bring Wendy in. I have spent hours upon hours upon hours speaking with her over the last month or so. This woman is back to who she was, yet she is in this guardianship. And I'm going to get into this later, but I know I'm not a doctor, but I've interviewed doctors about this, and I think she's been misdiagnosed. They say she has something called frontotemporal dementia. And the thing about that is it never gets better. It only gets worse. Wendy has gotten better. When you listen to her, and you listened to her 2 years ago and you listen to her today, she is back to who she was. And it wouldn't get better if it were that.
She obviously, when you're talking to her, she is rational. She is responding. She's actually parsing out, and that's what's heartbreaking about it. The fact she doesn't want to say something negative about her son. She kind of dances around it because we all understand that that's a very, very difficult situation. Nobody's kind of condemning her for it, but she shouldn't be, on the other hand, condemned into this kind of crazy situation that she's been relegated to.
And again, we're going to bring Wendy in a minute, but I got to tell you something. The Guardian in this case is suing on behalf of Wendy, A&E, which produced this Lifetime documentary, saying they took advantage of her. She didn't give consent to it. And Wendy does not want this lawsuit. And you got to start wondering what is going on here, because the reality is this, that when they shot that documentary on Lifetime, the Guardian was in place, and the Guardian could have gone to the shoots and watched it and stopped it or really gotten involved. And the Guardian didn't. The Guardian said, let her manager just be there. And the Guardian didn't do it. And now the Guardian sees the Lifetime documentary and says it's A&E's fault. Mark, whose fault is that?
Well, by the way, you were kind enough to send me the filing on that today. I took one look at it. I would think most 1Ls or 2Ls would tell you, I'm looking at that, wait a second, didn't we just learn about prior restraint in con law our first year? Why are you thinking that you're going to be able to restrain A&E from actually airing something, especially when you in real time knew what was happening here? You just didn't like the result.
Right. Now, Mark, the Guardian is saying it's A&E's fault. The Guardian is the one responsible for protecting Wendy, at least in theory. And if the Guardian wasn't there, whose fault is it if the documentary went off the rails?
And by the way, were there checks written by A&E, and who were they written to, and where did that money go? And if you followed the money, it makes it even more infuriating.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the Guardian. It was the Guardian's responsibility. And the Guardian, I think, is deflecting and blaming it on A&E. And my sense of this, and again, this is just my opinion, is that the Guardian realized, oh crap, maybe I should have been there. So the reaction is put her in a room, let's lock the door, and we won't have a situation like this again. And you're doing that to a human being.
The one thing that's kind of peculiar about all of this, I watched the clip and the doc that you put together. And I believe what we just heard in that clip was the niece. And the niece, I thought, was very, very attuned to what was happening here. Who knows? I mean, she could have been.
No, she is. She is. Her name is Alex.
She got what was happening here and had, obviously, or it appears obvious, and maybe Wendy will correct me, but at least her aunt's best interests at heart. If that is the case, and the son is kind of in a fractious state with his mother right now, why isn't the niece there at least as a co-guardian, or at least there to kind of present some check and balance if you need that? And why is this an overreaching one that's kind of a 360? Why is she enveloped in the whole thing as opposed to just somebody who's overseeing the finances?
Yeah, why she shouldn't be I'm sorry, I'm upset about this. She shouldn't be in a guardianship as far as I'm concerned. She should have a sober coach, somebody taking care of her money. Her niece, Alex, loves her. Gina, who's been a caregiver, just loves her. There are people around. Why is she in this guardianship? Okay. Wendy is on the phone right now, which is about all she can do. And Wendy, I know you've listened to what Mark and I have said. First of all, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Good to see you. Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Wendy. It's a pleasure. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances.
Well, you want to know what? I'm going through a really bad thing right now, but at least I've got good people with me. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
And starting with you, definitely. Harvey, listen, this thing that you were talking about that 4-part thing on TV.
Lifetime.
Her reputation is on the line.
You're talking about The Guardian.
Yes. Thank you. Well, look, I'm not talking. You do the talking. Okay. You know
I was going to ask you, Wendy, are you, because this was striking to me. Are you being told you can't talk? I mean, I don't even understand where that comes from.
Listen. You know why? Because you know the law. I don't know the law. But I just know what I'm going through. You understand what I'm saying? And I know that to have, for instance, my girl next to me by my side. Are you still there, girl?
Yeah, I'm here.
That's, by the way,
Okay.
that's Gina, and Gina
Thank you.
is a caregiver
Hi, Mike.
who's been helping Wendy through all of this.
Hi,
So-
Gina.
So the thing is that as far as I know, first of all I know about being on TV is that I was on TV for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So when that 4-part thing got on TV, I was like, oh, okay. In the meantime, the guardian person was nowhere in sight at all. I mean, taking photo shoots, doing this, doing that. She was nowhere in sight. I had no idea that she was actually basically the boss of that thing. So that lawsuit, it's none of my problem. I wasn't a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been doing stuff with Lifetime for a long time when I was doing anyway. I don't want that kind of money. That is not a lawsuit worth fighting for.
Well, Wendy, I have to ask you something. And if you don't want to talk about this, because I know that you've been under some pressure not to talk, as Mark said, but
I have to tell you, as a guardianship person, I feel that I've been, emotionally abused.
Well, I wanted to talk about that. When you say emotionally abused, who's telling you can't talk? Who's doing that? I mean, that to me, that's just frankly outrageous. Why are they telling you this? How are they framing this?
Well, first of all, where I am, Mark, and Harvey knows where I am. This 3rd floor, it's called the memory floor.
I know so much about this now. Wendy, it's the 5th floor. The 3rd floor is the gym.
I'm sorry, because you know what? I still haven't gone to the gym, which is on the 3rd floor.
Right.
I tried to go to the gym 4 times, and 4 times I still haven't gone to the gym to work out. You know what I'm saying? I thought as a guardian, you're supposed to help me do things like that. I thought, and these people just, I'm frustrated. You know what I'm saying? But I can't say so much, but I am.
So, Wendy, the judge in this case, my understanding, and these are all, secret sessions that the judge has. Everything's under seal. The judge, my understanding, the judge is pushing you to pursue this A&E lawsuit. Number one, am I correct? And number two, do you have any idea why, if I'm correct?
Well, there's a lot of money that I was told I would win. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care about that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? I want to get out of guardianship. I've been in this for over 3 years, and I don't have frontal temporal dementia, which I've been accused of having. I've been accused of that. I want my health back. I want my money back, and I want to move on with the rest of my life.
Mark, you can hear her. She sounds fine.
Wendy, haven't they tested you? I mean, you're in a facility. It's got a memory component to it. I would assume they're doing some kind of cognitive testing on a regular basis so that they can track whether or not you're declining or improving or anything else. If that's the case, is anybody taking those results of the cognitive testing and putting it in front of the court and saying, this no longer holds?
I don't know. I mean, this is what accused I've been of frontal temporal dementia. Yeah. I feel like I've been abused to the highest power. Like my life is like, it's just good to be talking to good people. That's all I can say. It's just good. And it's good to be heard. Even if it's through the window.
Even if it's through the window. Wendy, you actually pressured, I think, the guardian and the judge to force a reevaluation of you, to have doctors look at you, re-examine you, and see if you're okay enough now to get out. The thing that really shocked me is that the lawyer, I believe, for the guardian came out and said, yeah, we're going to do a reevaluation, but we think it's probably going to be the same result, the same diagnosis. How does this lawyer for a guardianship know that to say it? Because I don't know how many times she's talked to you. My guess is I've talked to you a lot more than she has. Charlemagne has talked to her a lot more than she has. Rosanna Scotto has talked to her a lot more than she has. Alex has talked to her a lot more than she has. Gina has talked to her a lot more than she has. And yet she comes out with this statement, yeah, you're a goner. You're probably just deteriorating. I was shocked at that.
You know what? She likes that. She likes that. And she feels that as long as I'm, hidden, in this stupid place where I am, that nobody will hear the truth from me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's a lawyer. That is a lawyer for you.
Thanks. We won't take that personal.
No, not you. You know who I'm talking about.
We do.
You don't. I'm talking about a woman, not a man.
So you're actually able to go to Miami this week. The judge actually did concede that, and you're going to be able to go for your dad's 94th birthday. It's almost the first taste of freedom in a long, long time for you, even though it's just a couple of days.
It's mind-boggling to me that Wendy Williams, who we're talking to right now, has to apply to a court to travel to her father's birthday party when I can walk down the street and in 30 seconds I can find 20 people who aren't able to function and think they're in an alternate reality, and there's nothing that the cops can do.
Yeah, I mean, there are constraints that I am going to tell, when I'm in Miami, but I don't want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? I just want things to go so good, and I'll be, by the way, doing a little shopping for me and my dad while I'm in Miami.
So, I do have a question about that. I know you love your son, and I know there have been issues. Is Kevin going to be there as far as you know?
Yeah, he'll be there. I will see him at a particular place, particular location. Me and my son, yes, I will.
Have you been talking?
I don't want to say too much.
Have you been talking to him? Because obviously he's involved in all of this.
Yes, listen. I don't want to talk about my son. You know what I'm saying? Like my son is my son. You know what I'm saying? And a guardian is a guardian. Yeah. And two are not the same at all.
Yeah.
By the way,
my son alone. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
I gave you, I give you a lot of props. I thought in that clip that you parsed out as diplomatically as possible the fact that, look, you're his mother. You're not going to denigrate the guy. He's your son. You love him to death. And how does loving your son and forgiving your son translate into being in your own personal kind of jail, so to speak, or prison? It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you love your son. You didn't happen, right?
Look, things happen. The point is that, I have no idea what kind of money I have left. I have no idea. You know what I'm saying? There are things that I thought a guardian is supposed to do for you that still haven't been done for me, and I don't want to be involved. I want to be free.
Yeah, you want to be free. You want an accounting. You want to know what you got. Which, by the way, it's your money. Why can't you get an accounting of the money? I mean, that should be given to you on a daily basis if you want it.
Listen, her reputation is on the line because that 4-part thing, like I said, I shouldn't have been doing that at all. If that's your person, then you're not supposed to be doing things at all. You're not supposed to be looking at it.
I get it. No, I get it. Wendy, I want to say something. And Mark, look, I know I'm kind of bullish on Wendy getting out of this guardianship, which I am. But I just want to say, I don't feel this way about every case I see where somebody's locked up unjustly.
Boy, you're not kidding.
I mean, I was against Britney Spears getting out of her conservatorship, which is the same as a guardianship, not because I dislike Britney, I don't. It's the opposite. She has a really serious mental illness, and that's established by 24 doctors. And I think there was a lot of pressure and ill-advised publicity around it, and the judge folded. But it's not like every time I see something, I say, oh, they should get out of it, because I took a lot of crap for saying what I said about Britney. This case is so clear to me. When I did a quiz with Wendy. I threw topics out to her during this documentary, which, by the way, is on Tubi, and you can watch this. And she didn't know what I was going to ask. And I'm telling you, it's like she was doing her television show. She's fine. She's fine. There are, you could throw a rock and find people who are unstable, but not Wendy Williams. And she's.
But there's a difference. The people who are unstable, who are out on the street, you can't do anything with, and Wendy Williams, the difference is money. Who's got the money? She's got money. Money fuels all of this. I don't want to cast any aspersions here, but I'm going to bet that the Guardian's getting paid. The Guardian's lawyer is getting paid.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So there's money being generated here, and it's very difficult to wean off of that when there's money being generated.
I have sources, and Wendy, I haven't even talked to you about this, but my understanding is that you are going to move to end this guardianship in court. The problem is going before the judge, who seems determined to keep you in this guardianship, and the guardian herself. That seems like a pretty high mountain to climb.
No comment. I can't talk about that.
Yeah, I get it. I just wanted to put it out there that we know that that's in the works. And as a matter of fact, in the documentary, I talked to your niece, Alex, who says you've hired a lawyer and that is the end goal. But Wendy, I got to tell you, I just feel so bad for you. I feel so bad for you. And I was doing an interview today about this, and it really occurred to me that I would go insane if I were stuck in a room for as long as you were. I just don't. I don't know how I would have done it.
No, you know what? People have said that before. Which makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like that. You know what I'm saying? Like people in the outside world, like you, Harvey, who've talked about how it would be if they were stuck in this situation. You know what I'm saying? And I am, I'll talk to you offline, as I usually do, Harvey. Harvey.
Well, I will say, I would have shown up with, God knows, a beard that went down to my kneecaps. And then we interview you when we put the camera up, and you got your fishnet stockings on. You got your, you were made up. It's just amazing to me.
What you want to know, the weird thing is that, and like I told you, even these people here, you know what I'm saying? I order lunch or whatever, and I eat right here, watching TV, listening to radio in the bathroom, lipstick popping all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's just because this is me. And this is always me. You know what I'm saying? And
how often do they evaluate you there?
How often? What do you mean evaluate?
Do they evaluate? No. Does somebody come in? Does somebody do the Harvey Levin test of giving you a cognitive test? Do they do that kind of evaluation?
No. Nobody does anything. People come in, they bring I have thyroid, you know what I'm saying? Had for years. They bring the pills and they leave. And then one person comes in maybe twice a week, and they are the maids who clean the bathroom. And that's it as far as who comes in.
So how many doctors have visited you in the last 6 months?
Well, I had a doctor for my thyroid.
No, for this supposed frontotemporal dementia.
And nobody comes. No, nobody. I don't have it. How dare? And by the way, and that would be my money. I don't want that.
So you have not had a single doctor come in and talk to you about this diagnosis since you've been at this facility.
Yes. One person came, and the person was young, in the 20s, like a young person, you know what I'm saying, telling me this. And I'm looking at like, I do? Okay. Anyway, bye. Yeah.
And that's one time in 7-8 months.
Yes, and she came like 3 times, because the first time I was like, who are you? We started talking and laughing and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, it's somebody to talk to. Great. Better company on this floor where, people have memory issues. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, girl, let's talk. And then she came back the second time. I was like, okay, give me a brochure or something. Let me see what this is. Oops, I almost cursed. What it's about. And then she came back the third time. I'm like, goodbye. Nice to meet you with my money, you know. And when she came, anyway, I don't want to go into that. The point is the end with seeing somebody like that on this floor.
Gina, are you there?
I'm here.
You want to say something?
I do. I just want, everyone to understand you're doing this interview by the window. And what may come out, on the opposite end of, the people that want Wendy to remain in this guardianship is that she's being exploited and people are taking advantage of her. And this is why she should be in a guardianship. And that's, for the record, that would be false. Only because Wendy looking out that window is her true reality. That is the only thing that she has in contact with the world. So I just want to really put that out there before somebody else comes and tries to take away from the point of your documentary.
Gina, can you, if you want to, or if Wendy wants to, can she, I assume there's an elevator there. Can she go outside?
No. She's on a locked unit, a locked floor.
Mark, she's been out twice in 30 days for both for a dentist.
Just wild. In California, at least, they abolished this years ago, this idea, and it's mind-boggling. You can still do it.
No, it's abolished here in the state of New York. Is that she's getting away with it, and it's a secret that she has gotten away with it for a very long time. And it's platforms like Harvey that open the opportunity for Wendy to tell her story. And again, just to put it out there, they probably will put out a statement that she's being exploited, and she's not. Wendy is crying out for help. She is being forcibly imprisoned. That is not a guardianship. That is a literal prison.
Thank you.
Gina, how do you get in there, Gina? How do you? They let you in?
It's actually it's a type of facility. It's an assisted living facility, and to my understanding, there's a memory unit.
This is a memory unit. I'm on the fifth floor.
And she's on the memory unit, and that's a locked unit. All the other floors, any residents are able to come and go freely as they wish.
Gina, you have not visited her the whole time she's been there.
No.
You've not. You can't get in, Mark. I mean,
you can't. No, they will not let you in.
I just do not. This is incomprehensible to me. I do not understand how you can have somebody, even under a conservatorship, the most draconian. How can you lock somebody away in a memory unit and say, okay, that's it. This is somebody who obviously has their faculties of more so than 98%.
But they're saying the opposite. They are saying, oh, she doesn't have her faculties. But it's like, who are you going to believe, me or your lion eyes?
Listen, my niece is going to have to get permission to see me on this fifth floor when she flies from Miami to New York in a couple of weeks. She'll be here, and will she be able to see me? She's got to get permission from the guardian person.
Aside from your niece, because I know she visited you once in October, have you had any contact with friends or family face to face since you've been at this facility for now going on 8 months?
Friends or family? No. Nobody.
Mark, this is crazy.
Well, see, this is what's so crazy. If they're worried about her, the undue influence on her money, that's fine. She doesn't have access to her money.
Right.
I get it. But how do you lock somebody up in a unit, tell them you can't have somebody visit or you can't leave? If they're worried, if it's a memory unit, you want to say, okay, well, we don't want her to leave because she may forget where she is and she's going to get lost. Okay, great. Then you've got Gina here who can then take her and wherever she wants to go. You've got somebody who's a chaperone, so to speak. Even under the worst case scenario, which is not justified based on the conversation we're having. I don't even understand what we're doing here.
No, it's an abuse of power, and she's abusing her power. And
why hasn't somebody done an emergency application here?
I know.
I don't understand this. What is going? I don't understand how if a hypothetically, a lawyer was hired to look into this, the first thing the lawyer should do is go and make some kind of an emergency application to try to justify how you've locked somebody up. And that's separate and apart from the money. I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about your ability to go freely, come and
Thank
go as
you.
you please.
And check this out, that we are privy to a court document where the judge says that Wendy should have, and this is, I believe, a quote, as much freedom as is practical. This is freedom? This is freedom?
By the way, if Wendy is correct, and I have no reason to doubt her, and that she's only visited a couple of times a week to get medication, right? So why can't Wendy be in her, I guess she's got a condo or apartment, and have somebody there who is monitoring her, and somebody who comes in to give her the medication. This is not the least restrictive by any stretch of the imagination. This is the most restrictive. In fact, this is exactly what sometimes I will make an application to a judge for somebody who's accused of a horrific crime I want them released on bail. This is worse than what most of the applications for bail that I propose.
Yeah. That's just, this is crazy. And the idea that somebody like Wendy Williams, who is famous and rich and with it, can be in this vicious cycle of you're crazy, Wendy. You have dementia, Wendy. You're getting worse, Wendy. And we're listening to her, and it's the opposite. And yet she can't get out of this thing.
I don't know about you, Harvey, but I've had very close loved ones, including both of my parents, who have suffered from a debilitating kind of devolving dementia. And I could not have this conversation with either one of them. And they were not in locked memory units. You understood it. By the way, when you're in that kind of, and I'm not a medical professional, but you know, if they're on an endless loop, you can understand, because that's when the memory goes. And I'll bet you Wendy's got the experience with the people who are on her floor where they're on an endless loop. That is not her.
So Wendy, what is your goal here? What would you like? I know you went out of the guardianship. What do you want your life to look like?
Well, go back to work and, have friends. You know what I'm saying? Have actual good friends. People who've been good, honest friends. You know what I'm saying? Like no cheaters, no liars, no stealers. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, everything about me is going to be well equipped. And I'm not talking about my body. I'm talking about, the people that I will have put in place. You know what I'm saying? Look.
Including a sober coach.
The point, I don't need a sober coach. I am not drinking.
No,
that
I know.
is money, and I don't have time. But by the way, I challenge you, since you have $1 million, test me. Bring me to a place, you know what I'm saying? And if I've had any drink at all, then you owe me, you know what I'm saying, $1 million.
But Wendy, that's infinitely easy to solve as well. I've got a client right now on a criminal case where that client is released pending sentencing, and she's got one of those abilities to be tested to see if they're imbibing of alcohol. If you're charged in a criminal case and you can be free to sit at your house and be tested for alcohol consumption regularly and intermittently, why can't you, who is not charged with a crime, be released to your house?
Because it's about my money. You know, it's about my money. And by the way, to get out of here and go back to work.
That was almost like an infomercial. I was asking you the obvious question, right?
Right. And Wendy and I have actually spoken about it.
Okay.
We can do hair testing. She doesn't have to be so confined and so restricted.
How
Wendy
about
has been
how about
out of
not
communication.
confined, Gina? I mean, it's like if you look at, think about people who get sober. Most of
Yeah.
them fall off the wagon at some point. Do all of those people go into a guardianship or a conservatorship
No.
when they do? None of
No,
them do.
absolutely.
This is
And
called
No,
this
but
is called
I'm
life.
telling you, it's about holding my money and using it for other people and nothing for me. It's about paying for this, paying for that. Oh my gosh, you need an attorney, you need a lawyer, you need this, you need that. It's all my money that other people are taking my money from. You understand what I'm saying?
And I was also telling Wendy, it's very interesting with this guardianship because we have lawyers involved. It's my understanding the guardianship is a lawyer. Everybody involved is a lawyer. If that's what it takes to protect Wendy, Wendy has the means to hire her own attorneys, right, to protect her. She doesn't need any state, city appointed attorneys to protect her because she has the means to protect herself. And again, we can all agree this really does not have to do with Wendy's mental or well-being. This is really about saving face on a situation where the guardian dropped the ball.
There you go.
She dropped the ball. And she put Wendy in this.
Better watch it, Gina. They're gonna say you're unduly influencing by telling them.
I mean, yeah.
You're going to be in the crosshair.
Those are the facts because I've spoken to Wendy so many times. And in the state of New York, the bar is very low. When I mean very low, to be in a guardianship, extremely low. And Wendy is nowhere near that.
Nowhere near that. Okay, Gina, Wendy, thank you so much. Wendy, I just got to say one thing since Gina's on. You're lucky to have her. You're lucky to have Alex. They love you. And they want the best for you. And I got to say, I've heard this now for well over a month with a lot of phone calls. You're lucky to have them on your side.
Yeah, I was going to say, Wendy, boy, you've got quite a advocate in Harvey. I haven't heard him get this fired up, and I don't know how long.
Well, Harvey is a great person, and Mark, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure is all mine. I hope to meet you in person very soon when you're out.
Thank you.
Wendy told me before we started that she was eating Milk Duds, so she promised me a box of Milk Duds.
Yes.
Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Mark, I got to tell you, I am upset. I've just not seen anything like this, that how somebody like this could be treated like a prisoner. Even worse than a prisoner.
You mentioned something about the Britney situation. And I always said in the Britney situation, Britney was freed basically when she went out and got her own lawyer that was separate and apart, and then the public outcry.
Right.
But I always worried about that situation for a variety of reasons, that the public outcry wasn't commensurate with her ability to deal, outside of the system.
Right.
Yes, by all accounts, unless I'm missing unless somebody is a great ventriloquist, she passes any kind of layman's ability to decide whether or not she's functioning.
And you have just joined the chorus because everybody else I've talked to has said exactly the same thing. I want to stay on top of this. We're not going to drop this, even though the documentary is now out. We are not going to drop it. We have to follow. We have to follow this, and not just for Wendy, because who else is this happening to in New York? Who else?
Well, I don't think this will last long. I mean, they always say sunlight's the best disinfectant. I mean, I think that at a certain point, somebody's going to see, hear her, and understand. Okay, the jig is up.
I hope you're right. Okay, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, Harvey. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.